Part 2. The Clash of Empires, Tragic Fates, and the Final Curtain. Act 5. The Battle of Red Cliffs, the biggest barbecue party in history. After unifying the North, Cao Cao, then at the pinnacle of his power, confidently led an army of 830,000, a number likely inflated for dramatic effect, south with the goal of annexing Jiangdong and finishing off Liu Bei's remaining forces. Liu Bei, who was being chased for his life by Cao Cao at the Battle of Changban, where Zhao Yun single-handedly rescued Dou and Zhang Fei held off Cao's army by shouting from a bridge, hastily sent Kong Ming to Jiangdong to ask for help. In Jiangdong, the Sun family's court was divided into two factions: the pro-surrender faction, led by Zhang Zhao, and the pro-war faction, led by Zhou Yu. The pro-surrender faction argued that Cao Cao was too strong, fighting would be suicide, and it was better to surrender. The pro-war faction was determined to fight to the bitter end.
Sun Quan, the young lord, was extremely hesitant.
Kong Ming arrived in Jiangdong and opened with a verbal duel against all the advisors of the pro-surrender faction. With his eloquence and sharp logic, plus a bit of goading, he refuted every one of their arguments, leaving them speechless. This war of words paved the way for the Sun-Liu alliance. Next, he met with Zhou Yu, the commander of Jiangdong's forces. Zhou Yu was a talented and handsome man, but he had one fatal flaw: jealousy. Seeing that Kong Ming was more talented than him, Zhou Yu cooperated while also trying to sabotage him. The Battle of Wits between Zhou Yu and Kong Ming is one of the highlights of the Battle of Red Cliffs, the borrowing arrows with thatched boats incident. Zhou Yu set a difficult condition, demanding that Kong Ming produce 100,000 arrows in 10 days. Kong Ming calmly replied, "Why 10 days? 3 days is enough," and signed a written pledge. On the third night, in a dense fog, he sent dozens of boats covered in straw near Cao Cao's naval camp, beating drums and shouting. Cao's troops, thinking they were under attack, shot arrows indiscriminately. As a result, Kong Ming collected over 100,000 arrows without breaking a sweat. Zhou Yu was furious. The self-torment ploy. Zhou Yu and the veteran general Huang Gai staged a play. Zhou Yu pretended to be angry and gave Huang Gai a severe beating. Huang Gai then wrote a letter of fake surrender to Cao Cao. Cao Cao, being suspicious, believed it after confirming that Huang Gai had indeed been beaten. Borrowing the east wind. The fire attack plan was ready, but one crucial element was missing: a southeastern wind to blow the fire towards Cao's camp. Zhou Yu was so worried he fell ill. Kong Ming visited him and wrote 16 characters. To defeat Cao's forces, a fire attack is needed. All is ready, except the east wind. Then he confidently said he could pray for the wind. In reality, he was simply an excellent weather forecaster who knew that in winter there would occasionally be a southeastern wind. That night, the southeastern wind did indeed rise. The allied forces of Shu and Wu attacked simultaneously. Huang Gai's surrender boats crashed into Cao's naval camp, and fire erupted. Cao Cao's entire fleet, which had been chained together for stability on the advice of Pang Tong, the fledgling phoenix, became a giant pyre. The Battle of Red Cliffs ended in a disastrous defeat for Cao Cao. He managed to escape, but on his way he was ambushed several times by Kong Ming's men, especially at Huarong Trail, where he met Guan Yu. Because Cao Cao had treated Guan Yu well in the past, Guan Yu let him go out of personal loyalty. Kong Ming knew this would happen, but still deliberately assigned the task to Guan Yu to repay the debt of kindness to Cao Cao. and also to reinforce military discipline. One stone, two birds. After the Battle of Red Cliffs, the tripartite balance of power was officially formed. Cao Cao had to return north to consolidate his forces. Sun Quan firmly held Jiangdong, and Liu Bei, from having not an inch of land to his name, conveniently seized Jing province, a strategic piece of land that both Cao Cao and Sun Quan coveted. This borrowing of Jing province would become the source of all future troubles. Act 6. The tripod formation and the first cracks. After obtaining Jing province, Liu Bei's group finally had a proper headquarters. But Jing province technically belonged to Sun Quan, theoretically, as Zhou Yu had shed blood to retake it from Cao Cao. Kong Ming and Liu Bei kept delaying its return, using the excuse, "We'll return it once we've taken West Chuan." Sun Quan and Zhou Yu were furious but could do nothing. Zhou Yu, after being outsmarted by Kong Ming several times, died of frustration, famously exclaiming, "Heaven, having created you, why did you also create Liang?" A literal death from indignation. Liu Bei, following Kong Ming's plan, advanced into West Chuan. This region was governed by Liu Zhang, another of Liu Bei's relatives. Liu Zhang was a weak and indecisive ruler. Liu Bei entered West Chuan under the pretext of helping to fight against Zhang Lu and Han Zhang. But in the end, with the help of inside agents and the talent of Pang Tong, the fledgling phoenix, he turned the tables and seized all of West Chuan. Unfortunately, Pang Tong was killed at Fallen Phoenix Slope, fulfilling Sima Yi's prophecy. Liu Bei lost a powerful right-hand man. In 219, Liu Bei declared himself king of Hanzhong, marking the peak of his career. At this time, he held both Jing and Yi provinces, had the 5 tiger generals, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun, Ma Chao, Huang Zhong, and had Kong Ming managing everything. The dream of reviving the Han dynasty seemed within reach. But it was at this very moment that a fatal crack appeared. The person who caused this crack was none other than Guan Yu. Guan Yu was assigned to defend Jing province, a position of utmost importance. He was an unparalleled warrior, but his personality was too arrogant. He looked down on his allies, calling Sun Quan's family dogs when Sun Quan proposed a marriage alliance, disrespected his colleagues, refusing to accept Ma Chao's status, and underestimated his opponents. Sun Quan, after repeatedly failing to get Jing province back, decided to ally with Cao Cao to retake it. Cao Cao sent troops to attack Fancheng to lure Guan Yu out. Guan Yu fell for the trap, leading all of Jing province's forces to attack Fancheng. He achieved a brilliant initial victory, flooding 7 armies, capturing Yujin, and beheading Pang De, his might shaking the land and scaring Cao Cao into considering moving the capital. But that was also when he was most vulnerable. In the rear, Sun Quan had Lu Meng, a talented general, used the crossing the river in white robes strategy to launch a surprise attack on Jing province. Guan Yu's troops, hearing that their homes had been lost their will to fight. In the end, Guan Yu was captured and executed at Maicheng. Guan Yu's death was a devastating blow to Liu Bei and the Shu Han kingdom. It not only meant the loss of a great general and a brother, but also the loss of Jing province, shattering the strategic foundation of the Longzhong plan. Shu Han was now left with only half its territory, caught between 2 powerful enemies. Act 7. The blood-soaked vengeance and the departure of the old guard. Hearing the news of Guan Yu's death, Liu Bei cried until he fainted. When he came to, only one word remained in his mind: revenge. Ignoring the advice of Kong Ming and Zhao Yun, Liu Bei, who had now declared himself emperor, mobilized the entire military force of Shu Han, some 700,000 troops, to attack eastern Wu. Zhang Fei, also eager to avenge his second brother, ordered his soldiers to prepare military supplies within 3 days or face execution. Due to his harshness, he was assassinated in his sleep by 2 of his subordinates. The anticlimactic death of a tiger general. Having lost 2 of his brothers, Liu Bei became even more frantic. He personally led the army and was initially victorious. But his haste and lack of strategy led him to make a fatal mistake. On the eastern Wu side, Sun Quan appointed Lu Xun, a young but brilliant general, as the Grand Commander. Lu Xun advocated for a strong defense, ignoring the Shu army's provocations and insults. He waited for the Shu troops to become exhausted, and especially for the hot summer. Liu Bei, to escape the heat, had his troops set up camp in a forest, connected for hundreds of miles. This was a fundamental military blunder. Lu Xun seized the opportunity and launched a fire attack. A second Battle of Red Cliffs was reenacted at Yiling. The 700,000 Shu troops were almost completely burned. Liu Bei had to flee to Baidi Castle, narrowly escaping with his life. The defeat at Yiling burned away all the military strength and morale of the Shu Han kingdom. Liu Bei, after this humiliating defeat, fell gravely ill. Knowing he would not recover, he summoned Kong Ming, entrusting his son Liu Shan, Dou, and the entire Shu Han kingdom to him. He famously said, "If my son is worthy of support, then support him. If he is incompetent, then you, Chancellor, may take the throne yourself." A dying wish full of calculation and sincerity, binding Kong Ming to the responsibility of serving with utmost devotion until death. In 223, Liu Bei died in Baidi Castle. The founding generation of Shu Han was almost all gone. At the same time, in the north, Cao Cao had also passed away. His son Cao Pi deposed the Han Emperor Jian and officially established the state of Wei. The Three Kingdoms period had truly begun. Act 8. Zhuge Liang, the burden on a giant's shoulders. After Liu Bei's death, the entire burden of Shu Han fell on Zhuge Liang's shoulders. He had to deal with a childish and naive emperor, Liu Shan, a weakened court, and 2 powerful external enemies. His first task was firefighting, re-establishing the alliance with Eastern Wu. Then, he conducted the 7 captures of Menghuo in the south to pacify the Nanman tribes and stabilize the rear. This campaign was like a military excursion, where Kong Ming displayed all his talents, from psychological warfare and geography to even magic, as depicted in the novel. Once the rear was secure, Kong Ming began to fulfill his promise to the late emperor, the northern expeditions. He wanted to attack the state of Wei to revive the Han dynasty. This was an almost hopeless endeavor. Shu Han was a small state with a small population and army, while Wei was powerful and wealthy. Kong Ming's life during this period was a series of 6 arduous northern expeditions. He had to face a worthy opponent, Sima Yi. Sima Yi was a true old fox. He knew he couldn't outwit Kong Ming in a direct confrontation, so he employed a single strategy: defense. He built fortifications and ramparts, ignoring Kong Ming's challenges. Even when sent women's clothing as an insult, he steadfastly refused to fight. He knew that the Shu army, coming from afar, had difficulty with supplies and could not hold out for long. The confrontation between Kong Ming and Sima Yi was a contest of intellect and patience. Kong Ming won many small battles, such as inventing wooden oxen and gliding horses for transportation, and using the empty fort strategy to scare Sima Yi away. But he could never achieve a decisive victory. The most dangerous moment for Sima Yi was at Shangfeng Valley. Kong Ming lured Sima Yi and his sons into a valley and then set it on fire. Just as he thought he had eliminated his greatest enemy, a sudden downpour saved Sima Yi's life. Kong Ming could only look up to the sky and sigh. Man proposes, heaven disposes. Finally, during the 6th Northern Expedition, Zhuge Liang, due to overwork and exhaustion, fell ill and died at the Wuzhang Plains. Before his death, he still arranged for a safe retreat, even using a wooden statue of himself to scare Sima Yi from pursuing. Later generations would say, a dead Zhuge could still scare away a living Sima Yi. Kong Ming's death marked the end of all hope for the Shu Han kingdom. He dedicated his entire life to an impossible dream, leaving behind a tragic and poignant image in history. Finale. Laughing through tears. Who was the winner? After Kong Ming's death, Shu Han lingered on under the rule of Liu Shan, an emperor who only knew pleasure and indulgence. Finally, when the Wei army led by Deng Ai and Zhang Hui attacked, Shu Han quickly surrendered. Liu Shan was taken to Luoyang and lived a life of leisure, even saying, "I am happy here and do not miss Shu," becoming a classic example of carefree obliviousness. Eastern Wu, after Sun Quan's death, also fell into internal strife and gradually weakened. So who was the final winner? Not Cao Wei nor Eastern Wu. The real winner was the Sima family. Sima Yi, after eliminating all political rivals in the Wei court, seized complete power. His sons Sima Shi and Sima Zhao continued to consolidate that power. His grandson Sima Yan finally forced the Wei emperor to abdicate and established the Jin dynasty. Afterwards, the Jin dynasty conquered Eastern Wu, unifying the realm. In the end, after nearly a century of slaughter, scheming, and millions of deaths, heroes like Liu Bei, Cao Cao, Sun Quan, and geniuses like Zhuge Liang and Zhou Yu all turned to dust. The winner was the one who lived the longest, was the most patient, and perhaps the most insidious. The story of the three kingdoms began with an oath in a peach garden and ended with the unification by a family that had waited in the shadows for decades. The entire war for the realm, with so much blood and tears, ultimately resembled a grand play. The main actors gave their all on stage, but the one who wrote the script and reaped the final benefits was someone standing behind the curtain. The great affairs of the world, after a long period of division, tend to unite. After a long period of union, tend to divide. In the end, the land remains the same. Only the people change. The stories of loyalty, wisdom, and courage remain. But looking back, one can't help but laugh at the irony of fate and the vanity of ambition. That is perhaps the most profound and satirical lesson left by the story of the three kingdoms. Thanks for watching.